Okay, so happy Ganesh Chaturthi to everyone. I
Happy
don't know
Ganesh
if it's
Chaturthi.
today or tomorrow, but I think today the big pujas and all are happening everywhere.
The
Thank
lunch.
you for lunch, yes. Thank you for attending despite all the festivities. I said if my Ganpati likes me, he's going to give me more work and more students, more classes. That is my prayer.
Hmm.
All right, so today we are starting the portraiture, and I'd like to explain a little bit about portrait or how to look at the topic of portraiture. Um, One thing is that it is considered a tough topic by everyone, and rightly so. I'll give you some reasons for that as well. And what I like to use it for is like a test to see how far you have come in your abilities. And I will also list those abilities down. So through the year, we do all sorts of different topics and different themes. And the goal over here is keep the art practice consistent. The consistency is meant for two different areas where we need to develop. One is the ability to observe everything that we are going to illustrate in a very objective manner. We want to break down what we see into line, color, texture, all of that. So whether it's a face or whether it's a tree or food, all of that has to finally come down to just these basic elements. And we need to be able to see that. The second one is how much control you have over the line that you draw. So if you think on a sheet of paper, you need to make a circle, is your hand ready to make that circle in the place, in the size, the way you need to? In the beginning, we feel just because we can hold a pencil, we should be able to draw. But that's not how our body works. By that measure, if I stand on a yoga mat, I should be able to do all sorts of poses. It doesn't work like that. So you need to put in some work, different kinds of. It is pretty much like yogasana. You put different asanas in front of your pencil and hand, and the more it does all of that, it starts getting strength, flexibility, exactly the same things. So a portrait exercise is a test for both these. Are you able to see the world around you objectively? And are you able to draw it the way you see it? And these two coming together is tested out on portraiture because uh, we are predisposed to looking at faces more acutely than anything else. A lot of our survival depends on what clans we surround ourselves with. So that is why you may walk into a get together of 1,000 people, and the first thing your face does or your brain does is scan the entire room. And even in 1,000 people who have exactly two eyes, one nose, one mouth, a certain hair, a certain height, you will spot the person you know within milliseconds. And the reason for that, this I've read through certain books on evolution, is we are we work in teams and clans, and we know which ones we have to associate with and which ones may be detrimental to our safety. So you scan it, and nowadays you don't have to run away from an occasion, but the brain still doesn't know that. So this ability to recognize people also comes in the way of making portraits, so that any little line that you make in the wrong place, instantly you can see that the face you're trying to make is not the same that you're making. So that's why when we start making portraits, no matter what we do, we always find that something is off. And trying to fix that, we make something else off. It all becomes very frustrating. So I realized before teaching portraiture that we need to go through the exercise of doing other kinds of portraits other kinds of themes to understand shape, size, proportion, placement, light, shadow, highlights, all of those things. And then when we come to portraiture, you apply that same objectivity to see what we see and to illustrate with a much more powerful hand, which has got practice doing all the other portraits. So when we try to make a butterfly, for example, we don't recognize the unique patterns on a butterfly. We don't know whether this butterfly is a John or whether it's a Smith or it's a Rupa. It's a butterfly to us, but I'm sure between butterflies, they know the difference in their patterns. So why is it that it doesn't matter to us? As long as we get some color and pattern, we are fine by it. Between different ethnicities, very often there are people from the Eastern countries that we can't tell the difference in their faces. That might be the same case with them. They look at our faces and think all of us are same. That's because unfamiliarity. We are not part of the clan. So one step towards one step towards making portraits is first learning how the features are created and how they fall on a formula face. So this is going to be a generic face. I'm going to give you a certain formula which becomes like the basic matrix around which faces can be built. It's all a matter of, again, shape, size, proportion, and placement. If you need to make any adjustment to change, say, Alka's face into Ritu's face, you will just have to change the proportions. All of these 4 things you will have to change, right? So today we're going to just do abstract faces. I'm going to show you the formula of how to make a face. I'll show you the different shapes you have to make. This is very generic, very basic. With this, you will start seeing faces in a different manner, and then we are going to execute them in one of the styles of faces that I have shared with you. And where is my group? Yeah. So the one thing that I've done, which again I recommend, is making abstract faces from real faces, but using reference images which have adequate accessories. So the accessories pull the illustration along to make it attractive and compelling. The face just becomes the vehicle. All of these have got some, this one's got hair and glasses and this lovely scarf. We have hats, turbans, jewelry. We have freckles, or we have, this could also be tattoos. In that sense, women are very lucky. We can do so much to embellish our faces. So we are going to make one of these. And I'm going to then hope that you try to make all of these during the week, one by one, and make a series of these faces. All right. So when we are sketching this, I'm going to show you how to make the basic sketches. Keep your erasing to a minimum and also make your lines very light. I'm going to show you how we'll compose the page also this time, as always, so that you are not tempted to make weird marks. This page should look beautiful even at the end of the exercise. All right, so as always, we will make the rough illustration and all the notes on the left-hand side and leave about so much space, which is a little more than half, for the final illustration. I'm going to show the formula on top, and right below that, I'm going to show you how to break down the face into eyes, nose, and mouth. Then we will leave about an inch or a 2-inch space on the side in case you want to make some notes. And then we will make one of those faces as an abstract illustration on this side. So you can keep referring to the previous formula and the shapes given on the left. So to start with, we start with some kind of an oval shape. Now, when you make an oval shape, I've deliberately made this like a weird shape because I want to show you erasing is not the answer for this. Adjust the line according to what you see there. And you will be able to tell from this, from the multiple lines, which lines are correct. So if something like that happens, please don't go and erase. Then we draw a line through the center vertically and another line horizontally through the centers. I'm going to number these lines. This one is line number 1. And then in the top half and the bottom half, again, I'm going to bifurcate to line 2 and line 3. This line is a little higher than half, but it's okay, doesn't matter. Then from 3 down towards the bottom of the oval also, I'm going to break this in half. This is line number 4. Now, because we all suffer from this wonderful phenomenon called pareidolia, already within this, you will start seeing the face in some form or another, especially if you make the number 4 line really tiny. So based on that line, everything else will reveal itself. All right, so this is now the eye line. That's number 1. Number 2 is the hairline. Number 3 is the nose. And number 4 is the mouth. So this is like a vague direction. If I were to equate this, if you stay in Bombay and you say, how do I get to Pune? You'll say, okay, just head towards the south. This is like that direction. It's not specific, which means that you will have to expect some adjustments to proportions as you go along. But this is a good starting point. At least you know which direction to head in. You're not heading in some random direction. You know, heading south from Pune will somehow take you, from Bombay will take you towards Pune. And then you can ask somebody else and they will put you in the right direction from that point. Now, in this space, on the eye line, we have to position the eyes in this manner. The proportion of the eyes is such that the size of the eye itself from the inner corner to the outer corner is the same distance you keep between the eyes, and then both eyes are the same size. So this space is equal to this and this space. From the center lines, from the 2 center markers, you can drop 2 lines towards the nose line to get some idea of where the nose will come. And then look at the distance from the inner corner of the eye to the center of the nose or the center line. We leave just about that much space on the side of the eyes, like this, and actually shave off that oval. And this gives us the shape of the face. Now, if your mouth has become too close to the bottom, you can always make adjustments. And I would recommend making these adjustments visually. There are certain formulas that you follow, and I don't know it, so I'm not going to claim that use this method or that method. I prefer to trust my eyes. But in order to train your eyes, you need to go through maybe 50 illustrations of really, really weird portraits. And then you come to a position where you say, no, I don't want to make a line over here, or I don't want to make the chin so close. I will want to make an adjustment. You have that ability to do that. All right, so now we'll move on to the features. This is where the features are going to fit in, but I'm not going to make the features so small that you can't see the details. We'll make the features below, and then you can start filling the features on the small face first, and then we'll go to the big face. So to start off, let's mark this proportion. So draw a line very lightly and break it in 3 parts. 1, 2, and 3. We know these distances have to be more or less the same. Then draw a line coming down. The nose has to fit in somewhere over here. How long and all, we don't know yet. Now for the eyes, we are just doing abstract right now. So our shapes are going to be rather sharp, much sharper than we see them in realistic illustrations of the face. So make an almond shape on both sides. Keep the height of these curves towards the top and the bottom similar. The bottom lid is usually shallower than the top lid. So you leave more space from the horizontal line towards the top and a little less towards the bottom. If you make them uniform, of course, we have some beautiful Bengali faces which have really round eyes. So it won't be wrong, but it helps to start off with a shallow lower lid, simply because it may not, if you make it too round, then the eyes can often look very surprised or shocked. Now the same distance that you have left for the eyes, above the eye, just draw a small horizontal line, the same distance away. This is where the eyebrows are going to come, somewhere over here.
Same distance as what, Aditi?
This height, the height of the almond shape that you have, the
Okay.
same distance above the top of the almond shape, you can draw a line. Again, this is a general direction. We will make adjustments to this. So make the general direction lines very, very light. Now, the eyes are technically a slit cut into the skin. That's how the eyes evolved. So some several million years ago, the original animals that started sensing light did not have eyes at all. They had certain cells that became sensitive to light. So they would move towards the light. And over time, those sensitive cells started becoming eyes. There's a fabulous video by Richard Dawkins about this. And eventually, the skin on top of that organ, it split up to allow the organ to actually see the light, receive the light. So it's a fantastic evolution of the eye. Why it helps to know all these things is because when you're making the eye, then there are certain features you will not forget. Imagine when we open or split something open, there is going to be a fold. That is why we have a fold on top of the upper lid. And that fold is slightly further away at the center and then narrows towards the outer end. Without the fold, the eyes look a little artificial. They look like Barbie eyes. Now mark the center point very lightly, and at this center point, you can make a circle that touches the top lid and maybe also covered by the top lid just a little bit so the eyes don't look stunned or stoned. The pupil is always connected to the upper lid. On a few rare occasions, when the face is in shock, it will be connected to the bottom lid. But more or less, most of the time, it is touching and is slightly overlapped by the upper lid. It has to be circular in shape if you want to make it look realistic, even in an abstract picture. And right in the center, concentrically, there is a lens. This is our own personal black hole, and it is going to be circular. If it is off center and if it is not circular, that might indicate a defect in the eye. Now in both the pupils, we will make a highlight on one corner in the top. So I'm making an oval-like shape on the left corner. Oh, there's no corner in a circle, sorry. On the northwest side in this circle. But on both eyes, it's on the same side. Here, the shapes do not appear on opposite sides. Once you have drawn this, you can shade the entire eye with a light color, very light shading, uniformly throughout. So this becomes just like the color of the iris. In order to make it look more rounded and more three-dimensional, remember how we had done, how we had made the water drops? In the same way, in the bottom half of the iris, imagine an oval shape that has to be left slightly light. And from the top, start making a shadow, which is dark at the top and recedes in its darkness as it comes towards that oval shape. This oval shape helps us indicate that the iris is not only round, but it is like a disc. No matter what other lines you draw, if your eye comes out like this, even if your eye shape is off, if one eye is higher, one eye is lower, make a Picasso-like painting, it will still look very, very realistic and very, I don't know what the word would be, but there is a certain kinship.
Alive. It looks very alive.
Yeah, it looks alive also, but there is also something about um, when you see eyes like your own, at least amongst humans, that's the case, you tend to be a little more sympathetic towards those people. So, in terms of art, there is a chance that without knowing why, the viewer of the painting will automatically be attracted to it, engaged by it, and therefore give it more credit and sometimes even buy the painting than another one. After the shading is done, we will color the lens the darkest black we can. When we are painting it, we are going to be coloring it black. The size of the lens depends upon the agitation of the um, the portrait. So if you want to show a very agitated face, you can make this pupil fully dilated, which means the lens is really big. But about this size is fine. This is normal. Now for the eyebrows, we should draw the nose. And I'll give you, there's a very sweet connection between the eyebrows and the nose. So use another tool to figure out how you want to make the eyebrows. Why I'm saying this is because I can give you some formula, but as always, the formula can only take you this far. In this case, we have a formula for the distance between the eyes and the nose. But over here, we don't really have that formula as such. We can choose whatever distance we want the eyes to be away from the nose. But then once that is drawn, we know that the mouth is going to come at half that distance below, right? So what I would do is I would place my tool in this manner to see where would I have the tip of the nose that I would like. So a shallower angle means the nose will be this tiny. And a longer angle, maybe over here, might be good. So I will put a line or a point here. And what I see is it's more or less like an equilateral triangle. So let's start with that. Right in the center, I will make a light circle, around that point. And from that center, I will draw a line that goes through the lens towards the top. So yeah, through the lens towards the eyebrows. Now both these features we are going to draw together. In order to draw the nose, I'll tell you what you have to avoid. We do not want to draw noses which have very prominent nostrils, especially nostrils which are, this is great if you want to draw a Ravan, but let's not draw this so stark. So a much more gentler way of drawing noses is just make the gentle curve at the bottom of the circle we've drawn and turn the sides of that half circle towards either side. And then depending upon, again, the ethnicity you want to show, you can make this circle wider or narrower and finish this off with like an elongated C shape on either side, accommodating for some room over here. Now this bottom part and these shapes, all of them can change. So if you want a really sharp nose, you can have a very tiny curve coming down and very narrow nostrils. If you want to show wider nostrils, you make a wider nose. You make a wide shape with, again, very flattened nostrils on the side. So all this depends on what you want to show. Right now, we're just going by the formula. We drew a circle, then made the whatever tip of the nose and septum and everything, and fit in the curved lines of the nostrils in this size given between the eyes. Now from here, we've drawn these lines, guidelines to come outside of the eyebrows. And if any of you have studied makeup in the 90s, they had taught us that in order to shape an eyebrow accurately, the arch of the eyebrow should come on at the end of the line, which starts at the tip of the nose and goes through the eye and ends over here. So we have to draw an arch. We can always shape the eyebrows straight like that and draw the arch, but I would say take a line slightly lower and curve this a little bit around the point and let it come outward. Don't bring it straight down over here. That looks very odd. And from the top, make it thick, slightly slanted and coming down here. Eyebrows to avoid. If this is your eye, eyebrows to avoid are those which go around the eye like that. This is a very tribal way of showing eyes, or a way of showing eyes in tribal paintings. Again, I keep saying it is not wrong. There is an application for each kind of these. But if you do not want your face to look very tribal and you want to focus on how the shape is, it would be somewhere in this vicinity. This is far too sculpted. But for an abstract illustration, we will keep it like this. On the other side, follow the same formula. At any rate, the eyebrow ends a certain distance away from the eye, and you could track a line coming downward like this. And I've spoken about this, and I think now for all the 4 years that you guys have been around, the purpose of the eyebrows and all that. So I'm not going to give you that story again. Now, once this is drawn, we can just shade the eyebrow dark for now. I'll give you more details on this when we do the realistic portraits next week. Now we have the eye line And we have the line of the nose, which can either be the tip or the point where that we got from joining this equilateral triangle. The mouth is going to be at somewhere at half the distance from the eyes to the nose. Measure this distance downward, and that will give you some idea of where you can start the mouth. So we'll draw a line just a little longer than the space we left for the nose.
Can you repeat for the mouth?
This is the distance, and that is from this formula. Remember how we made the distance between 1 and 3 is half of the bottom of the oval, and 3 and 4 is half of that distance between 3 and the bottom. So this is half and this is half, or rather this is quarter of the oval, this is quarter of the oval, and then we've split that part in half again. So from this is sorry, all we need to know is this distance, because we've got the eyes, we've got the nose, and this distance is half the distance between the eyes and the nose.
Okay.
The moment we establish where the eyes and the nose are, we can now get a distance for the mouth and we pull it down. So we'll draw a line that is a little bigger than the mouth. Sorry, what am I saying? Bigger than the nose on either side. And we can also turn the sides upward a little bit, give a little smile. I'm keeping the original flat line. Here on the sides of the mouth, we will make a short vertical line or a slanted line or a line perpendicular to the opening of the mouth. This is the opening of the mouth. And from the top, just below the nose, you can make a shallow V shape like this. This is the top part of the lips. At some point, I'm going to remember all these body parts, especially for the face. Everything has a name. This gap also has a name. And then you can join the lips with a very light line on either side of the mouth. If the mouth is smiling, you can often also join it on that vertical line, not just the horizontal line. And then a certain distance away, a little more than this tip maybe, or this distance, you can make a very shallow curve. This indicates the lower lip. And you can leave it like that. This will show a very bare face without any makeup perhaps. Now this is how our features are drawn. And we can draw these features in miniature on the face here. Shall we give it a shot? So you can practice this. And if you have any questions or you get stuck somewhere, you can ask me these questions right now before we go to the final illustration. Okay, so let's start with the eye. I'll talk you through it. The upper lid is slightly bigger than the smaller lid. Eyebrows, fold. Nose is going to be somewhere here. So this line that we've drawn, I've drawn, not we, looks good as the bottom of the nose. And for the mouth, I would sit and make faces like these behind my notebooks and textbooks in school for, I think every subject had at least 10, 15 of these. And I was fortunate to never have a teacher who stopped me from doing that, at least not that I remember anymore. Or maybe I'm giving them a lot of credit. But I could continue to do a lot of these. So when you're drawing this, what are you focusing on? Light lines. Reduce the pressure on your lines. Shading. You should be able to layer. Then you should be able to shade with your fingers. Now, this is something I have noticed in the in-person classes, because right now I can't see what you guys are doing. I have seen in the in-person classes, the students hold their pencil a certain way, and then when they're shading, their entire hand moves. This will make for very, very clunky shading. So plant your hand firmly on the paper and just use your fingers for shading. If you aren't in the habit of doing so, make it a habit. This shading, obviously, you're not going to get as much control on the pencil. Okay. Now that your features are drawn, we will also draw ears, and the ears come, at least in a face that's looking forwards, the ears will come from the eye line to about the nose line. And the hair, we've already made this as a hairline, but if I make her hair over here, now this is going to look really odd. So anywhere above this is where I can make the hair line. So part of it comes towards the inside of the ear line, and the rest of it can be anywhere above this. It does not have to end at the top of the oval. Depending upon the texture of the hair, it can end anywhere. So here's another thing also, when we try to make faces from people we are seeing in front of us, you will often make a face that's about this much, and you will finish the hair maybe just above this, like somewhere over here. And that again is because the brain doesn't register only that there's so much space above the head, above the eyes, above the forehead. Okay, everyone comfortable? No questions asked yet? Then we can begin making one of these illustrations.
So the lower line below the lip, it indicates just this chin part. This part, na?
The bottom lip.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just the bottom lip. We haven't drawn the chin yet. That we've drawn over here.
Okay. So the upper part only, denotes the full lip. I'm just trying to figure out if it's the full lip or only the upper part of the lip.
This is
Okay.
the full lip will look.
Okay.
Okay. So any choices, any personal choices? Which face you want to make?
Frida Kahlo.
The first one?
Yeah.
Frida inspired.
Anyone, whichever.
Okay, no, we'll go with somebody who has a choice. Any
I
others?
also prefer the girl with the flower.
The girl with the red this thing, headdress, and the shell.
Last one. Yeah.
This one.
Yeah.
Okay, this is going to be lots
Oh,
of
that one. I was talking about the other, the African girl.
this
The
one.
African girl, yeah. Yeah, this one.
Really good.
Let's do her. Yeah.
The African girl?
Hmm.
Okay, so here the advantage is that we've also done African textiles, right?
Hmm.
So you can employ some of that art over here. Okay, so let's do this. Now in this face, let's break this down a little bit. You can draw the oval, or you can see the oval somewhere like this. the kind of oval that we make. In this, it's easy to see where the face cuts, right? Which we can come to later as well. Suppose we break this in half and half. So the eyes are coming over here. If I break this in half and this in half, areva, perfect. Almost perfect face. And where is the forehead? Somewhere over here, which also seems pretty perfect because the beads on her forehead are covering the line between the hairline and the forehead itself. Her ears are not visible, so we won't draw those, but we can draw the embellishments. Okay, so we can start drawing now. You need to draw only the stuff that you need for the drawing. If you don't, like for example, the accessories are very elaborate. You really don't need to draw them. You can, or you can draw them when you have to paint them. Suddenly become very dark. We can just get some light in. All right. So see how much we need to draw around the face, and accordingly start the face over on the page. The face part is just about so much. Then there's a lot of jewelry, almost the same size as the face, and a lot on the head. So if our oval is about this big, how much space will we need around it? If we'll only look at the face and we make it so big, we won't have enough space for anything else. So I'm going to make it slightly small. That comes over here. Now, even this one, remember, the oval is just to give us some boundary, some general direction. If you draw it light enough, you don't have to erase it. Start with a vertical line, which also you don't have to make fully. I just like to draw very light dashed lines. For the nose also, I just draw a line in the center, not the whole line. Same with the mouth and even the hairline. So compared to the first framework that I had made, the second one, I've only drawn the lines that I need, no more than that. So looking at her face, we can divide the eye line into three parts, very balanced face. But also keep an eye on the shapes of her features. They're not exactly like what we'd drawn before. Her features are a little different. If you can copy that feature, it'll be that much better. So her eyes start like this and almost go horizontal. There's a nice corner of the inner eye, the tear duct. And then the eyes go like this. We are also making an abstract portrait. So we can have eyes which are not really very natural, but indicative, but pretty. The fold on top of the eyes is barely visible, so we'll just make it like this. And here also it follows the shape and the contour that we spoke about. Just turn the sides, the outer corners downward. Huh? They're not floating upward. That'll look very unnatural. And then we have the eyebrows. The eyebrows, the arch doesn't go all the way to the end. Her eyebrow, in fact, ends the little diagonal above the eye. So the thickest part of the eyebrow is somewhere over here. This is how you can use a reference image and modify the shapes to your to fit your tastes. Her nose is pretty wide. I'm imagining the circle of the center and giving a wideish nose with very tiny nostrils, C shape. I've drawn eyes that are bigger than her eyes. They're not very realistic. Again, because we're making an abstract illustration, all this is fine. I'm going to be outlining this in black. So all the adjustments that I want to make to the shapes, I can make later. Now here's a tip. Right now, if you see the right eye that I've drawn looks a little squint. So this is something that you can notice as you keep making more and more illustrations. So if I move the eye a little to the right, it won't look squint. And I can do that in pen now. So something like this is very important for portraiture. At what point will the eye stop looking squint? And at what other points? Every other place it'll look like something's wrong with the eyes. The more you draw, the more you will be able to make these micro adjustments. Okay, for her mouth, she's got very full lips, a little higher than where I've drawn the center of the mouth. So I'll make that line. A very flat V on top. And very rounded edges that go all the way to the side. The bottom of the bottom lip and the sides, because they are visible. Oh, her nose became too long. Never mind. Now, if I draw the chin over here, it's too narrow. So I'm expanding the line. Drawing the sides of her jaw first. And then attaching it all the way up to the face. So from here, the cheekbones and the cheeks come straight down and attached to the jawbone. This is a long line and can be very tricky. And often the left and the right are different. Once this is drawn, everything else is embellishment. So I can draw multiple lines over here for her headgear. I'm going to make these beads directly in pen. Then she has, on either side of her mouth at the bottom, she has these very fancy long earrings, which we will draw. Like, this is where being able to draw artifacts helps. And on either side, it has to look different. If it looks exactly the same, it makes for a very boring, predictable illustration. Just mark the outlines of where you want to draw the beads and draw them afterwards. Because right now, we still need to finish the rest. Now for the neck, you can draw very long, slender necks. And I like to start from the outer corner of the eye, drop a line down, and see what the proportion looks like. In this picture, for the age of the girl, this neck looks too fat. So I'll take it inward from both sides. It attaches a little from the outside coming in. From here, it goes straight down, not curving inward. And then it starts curving sideways. We don't need to know that much, but we need to show her necklaces on her neck. This is a very exaggerated long neck. I'm sure there are some women out there who have these necks. Unfortunately, our race is not that. And then you can draw all the beads like you see them. So draw horizontal lines to indicate where the beads will come. And to some extent, this jewelry will be a marker to know whether you're drawing it in the right place. Some places the beads have turned downward. And then you have see, and the shoulders are actually right here, not even that low, as low as I had drawn. So I'm ending her beads somewhere over here. I don't want to go too close to the base. And then comes the headgear, which also I will draw just with folds, sorry, lines to indicate the folds. There's a piece of fabric that comes all the way down here, which I'm going to end at this point. I don't like pictures that just end in nothing, just brush strokes. That's a personal preference. But there's nothing wrong with doing that either. So the reason I keep insisting that it is a personal preference, because I want you to know that you are free to have your personal preferences. And those are the preferences that will make your art unique. If I keep telling you, just do this, just do that, all I'll succeed in making is people who are clones. Fortunately, since all of you are adults, you know your limits and your boundaries. In art, you don't have any. So don't give yourself any excuse why you should not explore more. Don't, what's the saying they say? Don't chuck it till you try it, or something like that. Try something, see why you don't like it, investigate that part. That's more important. And then choose to do it or not. So she's got a lot of these tiny beaded hair-like things also. All of them I'm bringing to this point and ending. And I'll probably end her necklaces to this point, yeah. How's everyone doing?
I think I like it.
You like it? Okay, let's see. 1 second, let me just pin your picture. Aha, very nice. Ritika, the eyes na don't pinch the corners like that.
Huh.
And just see if you can, they're not in line with each other. This eye has gone a little higher. So either bring that lower or
Mhm.
take this one higher. But nice, everything else is looking great.
Yeah, I think eyes is a bit to be worked more on. I mean, the placement of the eye.
Yeah, that is one thing that will take a long time, but at least you know where to move it to. And this is where control of the line also makes a big difference.
Yeah.
If you have control on the line, then you will on the fly know where to make the line.
Mm.
All right, I'm going to use my waterproof ink to make the lines simply because I have it and I really enjoy making it. So, it's my pen though.
Aditi, can you see?
Oh, one second, one second. I wasn't looking up. Oh, lovely. Lovely, lovely. Very nice. Eyebrows. The eyebrows have come a little closer, and one
Ah,
eyebrow has come closer than the other eyebrow.
yeah.
So please, you can tweeze that a bit. Yeah, let's see its eyes. Okay, slightly higher, slightly higher. Nice, nice. Very good. Lovely. Very
So,
nice, Zai. Yeah.
if I have to make adjustments, do I need to use the eraser? If the eye is smaller or bigger?
Uh, I would suggest make the adjustments before you erase and then erase.
Okay.
So at
Okay.
least you know how much higher or lower. So let me explain how I think this works. I have no proof of this. Someday I will. But when you draw something on paper, it is something that your brain has analyzed and said, this is where you should draw the circle for the eye. Then when you draw it, you realize that maybe that's not the place. And that is because when you see something, it is different, sometimes different from what the brain sees or perceives that as, or how it analyzes it. So in order for you to correct it, you are going to correct it according to your visual data. If you erase it, you don't have visual data to correlate. This is what I see, this is what I've drawn. What I've drawn needs to change and become what I see. If you remove that, you'll say, okay, I see this, but then you're trying to remember what is it that I had drawn. And if the initial line was made by the brain, there's a good chance that you will make the same line at least 3, 4 times. You'll make that line, erase it, then you'll say, okay, now I'll make that change. But you'll keep making that line in the same place because the brain thinks it should be there. If you leave that, the line that the brain has made is there. The line that you want to make is visible because that's what you see. You can make that adjustment easier and then you can erase the line.
So I remember when I was, talking to an artisan who make these deities at the Durga Puja Pandal.
Huh.
So he said, I mean, the main person only makes the eyes because it's so much important. They said we won't delegate it to anyone. All
Yeah.
other works would, but there is only one person who makes the eyes, and he will make for all the deities.
Yeah.
Only the eyes. His job is only to make eyes.
I would be that person. I would love it.
Aditi, could you have a look at mine, please?
Yes. Yes.
The face is little, I think, too long.
Yeah. The face is long. The nose has come long. But okay, it's again the distance between the eyes. Just see from the center line what the distance of one eye is versus another eye. No, then the center line is crooked. See, if you plot a line straight from, yeah, see where your nose and mouth is and where the center line between the eyes is. No, no, it's not the same.
Yeah, so I have to shift it, na?
Yeah, so don't shift. Obviously, your center line will be shifted now. Now look at the distance between the left eye that you have drawn, on paper, the left eye and the center. Yeah. And see the distance between that and the right eye. It's much
Yeah.
less. No? Yeah. So
Yeah,
that
so
you
the
have to just
eye,
shift to the right.
eye has to shift to the right. Also, I feel the distance, this is too much, isn't it?
It is too much. But don't adjust that right now. We are making an abstract portrait. In abstract portraits, all these things are perfectly fine.
Okay. ठीक है.
Aditi, can I post mine on the group?
Yes,
that
yes.
you see?
Do that. Do that. I'll have a look and maybe I can share and speak about that.
Looking older.
Older. Okay. I'll tell you why also. Yeah. Okay. Very nice. So a few things that you could change. See on the right side, you've got this proportion nicely. On the left side, you need to make the face a little slimmer because it's become very wide from the left eye to the corner of the face. Then look at the positioning of the pupil, the iris. The iris needs to be a perfect circle, even though it is touching the top lid. Like over here, I can imagine it's a perfect circle and part of it is touching the top. But here it is much smaller. The position is a little to the left than it should be. So if you can expand this line, even if it is a little flatter and you see just half the circle, that is fine. In this though, when you make the lens, the lens will only come over here. Very often this has happened when I've told in class that put the lens in the center of your iris. Sometimes you feel that maybe this is where it should come. But if half your eye is closed and you can only see half of it, this is where the lens is. So it still needs to be seen as concentric. I'm trying very hard to make a circle. It still needs to be seen as concentric. Okay? All right. Everything else seems to be fine. So now this thing, the reason why your face is looking older is because of how far the nose is from the eyes. I think your right eye can come a little lower as well. Everybody's one eye has gone higher than the other. And believe me, this is very normal. You don't know until you have done it. So now you can make, see where the upper lid is on the left-hand side and where the upper lid is on the right-hand side. So you can bring that slightly lower. Yeah, this is a great start. So what happens over time is when you do these things, there are so many other dimensions that you can go wrong. And I would recommend go ahead and do all those stuff. You see how it looks. One eye going higher, one eye staying lower. Then one eye coming closer, one eye being further away. Somebody's proportions between the eye and the eyebrows are too high, too low. Everything, we have to go through all of that to know what not to do. It's a very, very minor adjustment throughout. And if we don't do that, unfortunately, we'll never be able to make portraits. It's like if you're going through hell, keep going. This is going to be hell, but we have to keep going. All right. So I'll be inking mine with my dip pen, but you can use a micron pen also because it gives us a little more control. The reason I'm using a dip pen only is because I have opened that bottle and I have so much ink in my inkwell and I don't want to waste it. So at every
What's the
point,
size?
you can use a 0.1. Even when you're making the final pen lines now, please keep looking at the reference image. because you can still make adjustments. When making dark lines, remember that you have the option of not making a few shapes. Like for the mouth, like I suggested, I'm just going to make the bottom of the bottom lip. And I could also do the same. Instead of drawing a stark line throughout the upper lip, I could keep a soft line by making just a few lines on the way. Now this part, I'm not going to make individual beads because it is going to take us till forever. So in a few places, I'm making the beads, like these corner beads over here. And between them, I'm just going to draw stripes. The beads are so tiny that they are meant to look like just red stripes anyway. Or I can always say that's my interpretation. And this, I think this does the job. One of the best things about an illustration like this is the fact that you can manipulate it and make it your own. You can, to some extent, as long as you don't add anything, if you don't keep things too specific and add something that can be misconstrued, you have a lot of freedom to experiment and express. Sometimes these motifs that we have, like the beads or embroideries or certain symbols, can easily be a very prized national identity or something like that. So you don't want to make it look unflattering, or you don't want to put it in a position that might offend somebody. But other than that, anything goes. Even that, I think, strictly speaking, in the world of art does go, But I hate that art aggravates in any reason, for any reason. I don't think we need to go that far unless that is the purpose of your practice. Once the face is drawn, once the beads are drawn, I'm going to draw the edge of the face. And I like to show that the beads are have a certain thickness. So I will keep them come off the edge of the face just a little bit.
Bye. Enjoy your holiday.
If you have very complicated designs, then you again have all the control to change that as well. Now here as well, very complicated bead design. This in itself can be a very beautiful artwork where the focus is more on the bead work than the face. That's what I mean by making the face a vehicle, but the delight of the painting comes from something else. There is I think a European lady named Heidi Lange. I don't know if you guys have seen any of her work. She's not like a famous artist, but my mother has a batik print that she had made, and she, I think, lives in, well, at that time, lived in East Africa somewhere, probably Kenya. And her artwork always featured these beautiful beads or beaded African hair. It was just exquisite. So the face was very abstract in that. And she played off of all these accessories. I found it fascinating that something like that can also be considered a beautiful painting. When making things like jewelry and all, it goes without saying, please keep an eye that one side of the jewelry or jewelry on one side, if it is supposed to be part of a matching pair, that indeed it matches in length, in proportion. Now here I can make, instead of again, individual beads, I feel if I make the texture, the beads are trying to make the round feel of the beads, that might look better. So though I'm not making individual beads, I'm creating the illusion of roundness with this. So this will, it's not a texture. It has to look like there is a 3D, three-dimensional objects which are woven together in this form. So the tops will be slightly flat, even if there's a roundness to it. It won't look like maybe flower petals or something. What I've seen very commonly among beginners, or when we struggle as beginners, is when we start drawing something like this, by the end of it, they just become curves. Each line you must think before drawing, why am I drawing it and what is it representing in the picture? And only then do they become convincing. Here also, it's the same situation. We have some of these beads connecting down to the larger embellishments. I'm first drawing those out. Okay, lot of jewelry. And then my earring has gone a little to the side, so I'm going to draw the shoulders from here, matching on both sides. Then the beaded hair-like features, which will come from behind the earrings as well. Here I'm just taking some liberties. Because I want to show an end of the shoulder line at a point. I prefer to have my graphic images end on with some kind of final line. When there are loose lines, for me, it makes no sense. Now, even when drawing fabric, you can draw parts of the fabric overlapping, folding, make the fabric look different from the other items that we have drawn. The scarf will end a little behind the hair like this. One advantage of using a dip pen is that I can make thin and thick lines on the illustration as well, which unfortunately on the with the micron pen we still can't do. But one disadvantage is that I have to be very careful where my hand goes. Okay, this is done. Now I'll make the eye. So we haven't made a few key features. We haven't made the lashes. No makeup on this, so we'll put that on a little later. Now the drawing itself has taken us quite a bit of time. It's almost 11, so I don't want to start painting this as yet. Would you mind if we painted this next week? We can give it enough time.
Yeah, we'll do it around.
Yeah. Anyway, 10-15 minutes extra is not going to make a difference. So we'll do it at leisure. So in the meantime, you can draw the other faces also. I think so. No? What do you think?
We can try.
Try it, because it's no different than we drew any of this. You know the proportions. You know how to, yeah, 1 second. You know how to translate very nicely. Translate the other lines of the embellishment on the face. You should be able to do this. So let's just go over the faces once and see what all is possible. For, say, this face, again, it's all very earthy colors. All of this can be illustrated. I think this is AI generated. It's very beautiful. This one again. This one you'll have to turn the face towards you. But all you need to know is you don't have to follow the shapes directly. You just need a reference for this. The face looks in the front. Then you have this big medallion with this jhalar in the center, two on the side, which you'll draw sideways. These Kaudis beads and this weird looking headgear. Sitting
But
straight.
getting that nose will be a little challenging.
You don't have to get this nose. You just have to draw the nose that we draw.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't have to make it like this face at all, because this face is looking a little away. It's 3/4 view. We're not trying to make this face yet. Here, this is fairly simple. This becomes your oval, middle line, all of that is there. And the jewelry, you can just keep it in black ink. You don't even have to color it. Color everything else and then just keep that black and white. Here as well, you have to just identify where the head stops. Oh, sorry. I ran out of space. Oh, I should try to zoom. Once we draw this, we should be able to move it. It's taller than this a little bit. And that indication you get from knowing where the eyes are. So this is the eye, nose. You can continue to make this, but then in proportion to that, see where the nose is gone.
So basically, we follow the proportions, the general proportions, and then we change it to the face we are seeing.
If you want to, I'm not insisting that right now you should, but that is one way that you can change and adjust. Even if you don't, even if you just follow the formula that I've given you today, you still won't be able to make identical faces one after the other. There will be some changes. Your oval will change. So your proportions will automatically change. So right now, just follow the formula. In order to make a complete illustration of that, use the graphics or the references that I've sent you and either put a scarf on it a certain way or a hat on it the way you see it. And that should do it. Very few adjustments are required for the face right now. Okay. All right. So we will pick this up next week. And in the meantime, Ritu and I are going to have a Zoom call for the Jaipur art retreat sometime in the next few days, just to answer questions or whatnot. So we'll announce that. Even if you are not interested, please attend so you know what is going to happen. And if you feel there are other people who've inquired who'd like to come, even if they're not part of the class, you can ask them to join that Zoom so we can speak about what we're going to do. We've just built the itinerary. It's really looking nice. So hopefully we can get a final number and finish that thing. Otherwise, I'm going to have to cancel this one also, like Srinagar.
Would you put that on Insta?
I will put it on Insta, yeah. For now, I wanted to just inform you that we will be doing this call sometime soon. All right, so that's it. I'll see you next week. Happy Ganesh Chaturthi again and enjoy lots of modaks and sweets.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.